Hi, this is Scott Erickson with DTG. DTG is based out of Tampa, Florida, and we're a computer graphics systems integrator specializing in providing input, camera and scanner, color management, and output and finishing solutions to our customers. DTG is an independent reseller. We sell Epson, Canon, HP, X-Rite. We sell a lot of different brands. Today we're going to be talking about setting up the Epson 9890 printer. Now the 9890 is pretty much identical to the Epson 9900. The only difference is it doesn't have the orange and green inks. So this video is actually going to serve a couple of purposes in that the setup is really identical to the 9900 printer. Now there's two other printers, the 7890 and the 7900. Those two printers are again identical to these, it's just that they're narrower. So again, the setup is going to be very similar. So you can refer to this video for that as well. So let's get started. We're going to go ahead and unbox the printer. This is obviously how the printer comes in to the building. Be sure that when you order the printer, you talk to your DTG rep, whether you have a dock, whether you need a lift gate to get the printer off the truck. As you can see, it comes on a wooden pallet. It's big, it's heavy, so if you don't have a dock or a forklift, you're going to need help getting it off that truck, and that lift gate will definitely get it off the truck for you. So let's get started on unboxing and setting up the 9890 printer. Okay, so once we're ready to unpack the 9890 or 9900 printer, first thing we're going to do is come over to the side of the box. On the side of the box there's a big white sticker that says open here for installation instructions and documentation. So what we've done is we've already went ahead and scored this section of the box so we can open up the flap. And inside here is the user guide and power cord. So we can refer to this to help us guide us through the installation and setup process, or you can watch this video. Next we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and score this top part of the box so that we can open it up. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to get some help, and we're going to lift basically the printer stand box out of the top of the printer. All right, the stand box has got two handles on either side, so we can just lift straight up, and we'll just bring it out here towards the front and put it down. All right, at this point, don't have to start ripping open the box or anything like that. We'll just close the box, grab it on the side, lift straight up, and then we'll just put the box out to the side. If you unfold it, you can just go ahead and collapse it down on itself to help you get it out of the way and then discarded. Important to note, you don't really need to keep the box. You can if you'd like, but if there is any kind of warranty issue or problem, there is a 1-year warranty with on-site tech help. So Epson actually comes out and does the repair on site. So what we'll do now is we'll go ahead and discard all of the extra packing material. You've got the roll of paper double weight mat that comes with the printer, ink cartridges, some styrofoam containers, the spindle roll adapters, a couple of guides. But we're just going to go ahead and remove all this packing material so that we can get the printer ready to be put on the stand. Now obviously what we've got to do is go ahead and assemble the stand. So we'll get the stand components out and then show you how to put the stand together. Okay, so what you're looking at here are the contents of that stand box, that first box that we pulled out of the printer. Good news is the stand itself goes together really easy. It's basically three pieces, a left leg, a right leg, and a cross brace. Bad news is I think Epson put their intern on the design of the basket. The basket basically is about 20 pieces, including posts and accessories and things like that. So we're actually going to go ahead and walk you through putting the basket together, but the first thing we're going to do is go ahead and get that stand put together. So Darren's going to help me basically take the leg. Each leg is actually marked. We've got a L on this leg and an R on that leg, and then the cross brace is also labeled. So at the end of the cross brace is an L and an R as well. So we'll just go ahead and grab that and place it in. At this point there's a little bag that came in the stand box that has the hardware. We've got 6 screws and an Allen wrench. So I'm going to go ahead and give 3 screws to Darren. And I've got 3 screws, and then we'll just go ahead and screw these in at this point. And then we'll screw those in, get them hand tight, and then we'll take the Allen wrench and then we'll tighten those down. That's all there is to putting the actual stand together. So as you can see, we've got the stand assembled. We've basically tightened the 3 Allen screws on either side. What we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and move this out of the way so that we can see the basket contents. All right, so what we've done here is we've laid out the basket basically as it needs to be put together. So if you've got the room, lay it out like this because it's a lot easier to assemble. It's a lot of parts, so it can get a little confusing at times. So what we've got is we've got 4 of these. All right, these are posts that go into the front and the back of the legs on either side. We've got a couple of these for the front, and then we've got a couple of those for the back. And then we've also got some rods. I'm going to tell you basically the orders of these rods that go through the basket. You've got the chrome one that goes through the front, a square one right behind that, then a round one on the midsection of the basket, another round one on the mid rear section of the basket, then another square right behind it. So basically on the basket there are some grooves or some pockets that these rods will go right through. So we'll start on that first. We'll go ahead and I'll put the chrome one in the big slot here in the front. Darren will go ahead and start on the other poles. And again, have some patience, as this can be a little tough and challenging getting through. Okay, I'll start on these back ones. That's funny. Okay. All right, so next I'm going to go ahead and take these little top pieces and we'll put it to the top of this square post. Basically this end has got a hole in it. This is solid. We want the hole facing towards the inside, and then also there's a hole on either side. We want this hole and this hole to be on the same side of this rod. We don't want it at 90 degrees like that. All right, so we'll just go ahead and assemble that. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and bring the stand back into the scene because we're ready to go ahead and start putting the basket actually on the stand itself. So what we'll do is we'll take these posts on either end. You've got 4 of these pins, 2 for the front here. I'm going to go ahead and insert this rod here, and then there's a hole on the other side of the leg. And what I'm trying to do is line up this pin into that hole so that this now pivots and swings. All right, so we've got that done. Next, we'll go ahead and take the front of the basket, and let me get this out of the way so they can see. On the front here, we've got 2 holes that this metal bar clips into. All right, next, we're going to go ahead and take the bar that's behind that. We're going to put it up and put it into these end caps that we assembled. Now down here we've got another rod that we've already inserted. That goes into the grooves that were actually where these pins inserted into. So that just basically clips right into that groove, into that hole. All right. So next, what I'm going to do is we've got 2 more of these rods, and then these clip onto the rods like the other one. They're just bigger, and what we want to do is put the holes on the bottom so they can go into the pins. All right, just like that. We'll take these other 2 pins, and let's actually turn this around, Darren. All right, so now that we've got it turned around, you can see these back posts that are similar to the ones on the front. So we're going to take these pieces, and then with this pin, we're going to insert that. Again, there's a hole on this, and then we're going to take that pin, we're going to line it up, and then basically just slide it through until we can get that thing clipped in there. And then this again will pivot at that point. All right, so next we're going to take this rod, and we're going to set it down into this groove, down towards the bottom. Then we're going to take these pieces, and we're going to go ahead and just basically put them in the square holes on the plastic piece. And again, this can be a little tricky when you're both doing it at the same time because you've got to line up the black posts evenly. So pretty much once you've got that in, now this rocks back and forth depending on how far from the wall that you want it. Can go all the way back, or you can swing it in. Same thing on the front. So this is the assembled basket to catch the paper prints. Okay, so we're ready to lift the printer up onto the stand and get it on the stand. We've since spun the stand around, so again, remember we've got the right leg marked with an R, the left leg marked with an L. What we'll do is we'll position the stand towards the front of the printer so we get it as close as possible to the printer. On the top of the legs are two posts, one here and one on the left. These actually line up into some holes that are on the bottom of the printer. So what we do is we recommend that you guys get 4 people to lift the printer, and then maybe have 1 to help you spot and actually line up these posts into the bottom of the printer. So 2 on each end, lift the printer up, put it on, line up the holes, and then it'll actually kind of fit and kind of fall into place once those holes are lined up on it. At that point, you just take 2 wing nuts and you attach the base of the printer to the stand. So we've got the printer on top of the stand and mounted. Again, we tighten it down with the 2 supplied wing nuts that came with the printer. Now what you're looking at is basically the remaining parts that we will be using with the printer. One of the things I wanted to point out are the paper guides. I'll go ahead and put one of these on. There are a total of 5, so you can continue across. But basically, these have got 2 pins and then some hooks underneath. We're just going to basically squeeze and put that in there like that, and this can adjust out to guide the paper and help guide the paper out of the machine or down into the basket. So there's 5 of those. We'll continue on with that. At this point, I'd like to go ahead and show you the back connections of the printer. So we can hook up, power to it, and then also show you where the Ethernet and or USB ports go. So basically on the back side of the 9890 or 9900, you've got the power port, an Ethernet port, a USB port, and then another special port that is actually used for the optional spectroproofer, which is an automated spectrophotometer. You can ask or call DTG about that if you're interested in building your own profiles or doing proof certifications. So what we'll go ahead and do is I'll go ahead and power it up, or actually plug it in first to the outlet. With the Ethernet and the USB ports, we don't have to plug those in right now, but I do want to show you again. Here's the Ethernet and then the USB. Pick one or the other. Don't plug them both in at the same time and try to have your computer print to either or of the ports. Choose one and stick with it. And again, on the Ethernet, you can do a crossover cable directly to your computer, or you can actually connect it to your network or hub or switch. So what we'll do now is go ahead and power up the printer and load the inks. Before we do go ahead and power up the machine, let's go ahead and remove all of the packing tape that came with the secure parts of the machine and parts of the moving parts. So first thing I'm going to do and show you is let's remove the tape and open up the cover off the front of the machine. And then you'll notice on the top is a little cardboard cutout kind of illustrating what we're going to do now, and that's remove the actual print head stop, which keeps the print head locked down in transport. So we'll just go ahead and pull this tape, and then I'll go ahead and grab the sponge and then pull it right out of the machine. So here's what that looks like. you might want to go ahead and hold on to this. If you did ever have to ship the unit, it's okay to roll it around without this in it, but if you ever did need to ship the unit somewhere, we'd want to go ahead and put this back in the machine. We'll go ahead and proceed to take all the tape off, and then we'll fire up the inks. Okay, so we're back and we're ready to power up the machine and load the inks. We'll go ahead and hit the power button, which is the big gray button to the left of the LCD screen. Go ahead and press that on. It does take some time to boot up initially, and then eventually it will ask us to go ahead and load the ink tanks. One real key difference, this is a setup video for a 9890 and a 9900. If you remember, the 9900 adds 2 more inks to the entire collection of inks. It adds orange and green, whereas the 9890 does not feature those 2 ink tanks. So that's where it will slightly, or differ slightly in this ink install process. So on the front panel it now says no cartridge, install ink cartridge. So basically the machine will go ahead and automatically pop open the right and the left covers after it initializes, allowing us to open it up and install the ink. Here's the white box with the ink tanks in it. What I want to do is anytime I'm installing ink, whether it's the first time or if I'm replacing one in 2 months, I want to gently shake the ink for about 5 seconds. This agitates the ink inside of it and is pretty much required before you load the ink into the machine. So we'll go ahead and shake that, and then each blue bag has a little tear notch in the upper corners, allowing you to easily open that. So just tear it, pull it down, and that basically will allow you to take the ink tank out of the machine. All right. So we'll take a couple of these ink tanks out. The machine did go ahead and open both covers. Once it just pops open, you can just swing that down. We'll do that on the right, then on the left-hand side. All right, this is the first one I took out. We've already shaken it. This is the light black cartridge. The ink tank doors are labeled for each color, along with an arrow on top of the ink cartridge showing the direction in which the ink tank needs to be installed in the machine. So this is the light black. We'll put it in that slot. We'll insert it. And basically what you'll do is you'll feel a little bit of a resistance, and that resistance is the entry, and we'll just push and you'll hear a click, and that's the ink tank going seated properly into the machine. So we'll give that a little bit of a shake. All right, this is the light black. So we'll go ahead and find that, push it in, click, and we're good. So we'll just continue on with the rest of the inks on the left side and the right side, and we'll go ahead and close the doors. So we went ahead and inserted the last ink tank. We closed the left cover. Go ahead and close the right cover. Now the machine will continue to boot up. The initial time we do this with the ink tank, it's going to take anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes to go ahead and charge the ink delivery system. And be careful, you don't want to turn the machine off or potentially lose power in the middle of this process, because you'll have to start all over again and you could waste a lot of ink. In fact, you could basically deplete one of the cartridges and have to insert a brand new cartridge to complete the process. So make sure you don't lose power during this process. So we'll let it go ahead and boot up and then continue on. Okay, so the printer is finished charging the ink system. Once it's finished, it will do an automatic nozzle check, and then the front panel, the LCD, will actually show this message: paper out, load paper. It'll also show you the ink level indicators, and as you can see, some of the inks obviously have gone down a little bit, so this initial charging process does consume some ink. Here are your individual colors on the ink. Now to the right on the LCD panel you see 2 brown bars. Those brown bars are not ink tanks, they're what are called the maintenance tanks. The maintenance tanks are what collect the ink that first has been discharged in the initial charging process, but also the ink that is collected during print head cleaning. It's got to go somewhere, and it goes into what's called the maintenance tank. On the 9890 and 9900, they're on both the right and the left side of the printer. So on the back side of the printer, we've got a maintenance tank, and as you can see, we've got some of the ink collected from the initial charging process. Now there's another one on the left-hand side, and if you took that out and actually took a look at it, you'd actually see that there's no ink in it. That left-hand maintenance tank is really exclusively used for border-free printing. So if you're doing borderless printing and the ink actually has to spill off the edge of the paper, so that is collected in the left maintenance tank, which leads to the question, can I rotate these? Are they interchangeable? Yes, they are. So as the right one starts to get filled up, that bar will actually start to get lower. You see the right one is actually lower, so it's got less life in it. As it gets close to the end, you can actually switch these out and actually use the right one or the empty one from the left on the right hand side. All right, so at this point it says load paper, so let's go ahead and load the paper so that we can do a nozzle check and what's called a print head alignment so we can optimize the print quality. The 9890 and the 9900 as well as the 7890 and 7900 utilize these roll adapters. These roll adapters are really cool because there's no more spindle. So they go onto the end of the rolls and then actually just go right into the printer. So some of the papers have what are called 2-inch cores. That would be this size core, which is the double weight mat that came with the printer. Some of them have 3-inch cores. So if you do have a 3-inch core media like fine art or heavy photo paper, there's a built-in adapter. So I can actually literally take the back side and slide this and actually toggle between 2 and 3 inches on this adapter. So in this case we're at 2-inch, so I'll go ahead and leave it on the 2-inch. And then I'll slide it over to in the end of the right. And you'll notice I can't push it any further. I have to swing this handle out. That allows me to get it all the way in. You can see it's kind of free moving, and once I close that, it's now gripping the paper. So we'll go ahead and do that on the other side. These are interchangeable. You don't have to put one on the certain end. They go left or right. So put that up there. Actually, let me grab that, get it out of the way. This is where we load the paper. The left side is actually movable, so I'm going to take it to the unlock position. This allows me to slide it from left to right. So in other words, we can put a 10-inch roll, 16-inch, 24-inch, 36-inch just by adjusting this to whatever the size of the roll is. So we'll go ahead, and since we have 44-inch, I'll swing it all the way out to the left. I'll put the paper up here in this little groove that's in the top of the printer. Easiest way to do this, slide it all the way to the right. There's a little black stopper, all right, that will actually grab or stop the paper from moving to the right. That lines up the right edge with the right adapter. Inside these adapters are 2 white arrows, so I'm going to basically just kind of slide this left one to line up the arrow with the left side as well, and then we'll just go ahead and swing it in there. We'll grab the handle, push it to the right to kind of lock it in place, and then we'll secure this lock lever so it doesn't move left to right. All right, once we've got the paper inside the machine, a lot of the Epson medias come with a protective cover sheet, so I'll just pull that off and discard it. Then we'll take the actual paper itself, grab the leading edge, pull it out a little bit. And then on the right side of the printer, or the right side of the control panel, is where I control the paper load button. So basically I'll hit this white button. What that's going to do is it's going to lift up the rollers that are inside the actual printer that keep the paper against the platen. It lifts those up and raises them up so I can actually take the paper and insert it. So we'll grab that, insert it into the slot. Just kind of pull it down, and what I'm doing here is I'm bringing that paper down until I can actually see it here. So I just pull it down, slightly down, covering part of the black platen. Once I've got it around this area, I'll just push that white roll button again. What that's going to do is secure those levers, allowing the printer to grip the paper. And the actual print head will come out. It'll actually find the left edge and the right edge. It'll measure the paper. It'll also see if it's straight. If it's not straight, it will basically automatically adjust with those spindles to straighten up the media. So at that point, once everything's loaded and the printer is happy with the straightness of the paper, we can go ahead and proceed with the next thing we're going to do, which is called a nozzle check. Before we run the nozzle check, since we loaded this roll for the first time, the printer is asking us what type of paper we have in the machine. So right now it's asking if these settings are okay, plain paper. Well, no, they're not okay. This isn't plain paper, it's double weight mat. So I'm going to scroll down to the no, hit OK, and then I'm going to select the paper type. All right, what kind of paper, what family of paper it is. It's matte paper. So I just hit the right arrow to get into its submenu. Then I scroll down to double weight matte and then click OK. So that basically registers or tells the printer itself what type and what the thickness of the paper is in the machine. All right, so nozzle check. We're going to run a nozzle check because basically before we start any kind of printing or serious long printing or a head alignment, which we're going to do to ensure the accuracy or the fine printing of the printer, we're going to make sure that all of our jets in our printer are firing. So we're going to go ahead and run a nozzle check. So to do that, I'm going to get into the menu by hitting the menu button, which is also the right arrow. I'm going to go down to test print, hit the right arrow. Then I'm going to go to nozzle check, hit the right arrow, and then print, I'm going to say OK. So what this is going to do is go ahead and print out this test pattern that allows me to visually see if my jets are OK. Now these new series printers, 7890, 9890, 9900, 7900, include what's called auto nozzle check or auto nozzle verification, which the printer automatically checks to see if the nozzles. I'll tell you that it works pretty good. But it's not perfect. So this is one of the reasons why I always do a visual nozzle check, especially if I'm doing a print that really is important and needs all the accuracy it can. Alright, so here's the nozzle check. What I'm looking at is basically all my colors, and I'm not sure if you can see this, but basically, I'm checking all the colors, and there's a stair-step pattern. I'm looking for gaps or missing lines or deflections or anything like that. This actually looks perfect. It looks totally smooth and looks like it's ready to go. So nozzle check's good. We'll then go ahead and proceed with the head alignment. Okay, so now that we've verified that our nozzles are firing, we're going to go ahead and run a head alignment. What a head alignment is basically a pattern that's printed, automatically read by the printer, and then adjusted to make sure that the colors are all registered with each other, both in single direction and bidirectional or high-speed printing. This ensures that we get the best quality prints when we're printing with our printer. So to do that, we're going to go right into the front panel. We're not going to run this from the software driver. We're going to do it from the front panel because it's more thorough. So we'll hit the menu button. We'll scroll down, go to head alignment, hit the right arrow button, go down to alignment, hit the right arrow button. We want it done automatically, so we're going to select auto, hit the right arrow button. And there's basically two patterns in this list that we want to do. These two patterns basically are, the first one is Uni-D, it's UNI-D. The second one is Bi-D all. Alright, BI-D all. So run those two patterns. First, important, we're going to run the Uni-D pattern. So we're going to select Uni-D, highlighting it, hit the right arrow, and then hit print, or hit OK to select print. When we hit OK, printer goes ahead and prints the pattern, feeds the paper back, automatically reads that pattern, and makes any adjustments if it has to make those adjustments. So this will print out and finish. Once this finishes, I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to go back into the print head alignment menu, scroll down to Bi-D all, select it, hit OK. It's going to print out the Bi-D all patterns, automatically adjust, and then we're finished with basically doing the print head alignment on the printer. We want to do this for the 7890, the 7900, the 9890, or the 9900 printers. Okay, so we finished with the print head alignment pattern. This is what one of the alignment patterns looks like, so you can see what's actually printed. What we wanted to do, just show you one last thing, is how to load sheet paper. So before we load sheet paper, we've got to unload the roll paper. So to do that, again, we're going to go to the paper load button in the upper right hand corner of the control panel. So I'll just go ahead and push that button, and by pushing the button, the printer automatically rewinds and ejects the roll paper back into the roll area. Alright, to load sheet paper, what I'm going to do is go ahead and close that cover. On the front panel, I'm going to hit, there's a button which is the left arrow button that also toggles between the different sheet and roll modes. So by pushing that button, I can turn the cutter off, put it to sheet mode, and I can basically just toggle between the different modes. Roll mode, roll with cutter, and then sheet mode. So we'll take it to sheet mode, and then I'm going to go ahead and press this button again, the paper load button. What that's going to do is going to close those roll roller holders against the platen. So once I close that, we'll go ahead and take our sheet. And with sheet paper, we can load 8.5 by 11. We could load a 40 by 60 sheet if we wanted to. We can even load poster board in this machine, so it can be rigid, straight poster board up to 1.6 millimeters thick. So what we'll do is we'll take our sheet. On the front cover of the roll cover is a sheet icon with a vertical line. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the sheet, take the right edge of that sheet, drop it into the machine, kind of lining it up with that line, and then there's also a little line on the silver area underneath the sheet. So we'll just kind of line that up. Once we've got it in the position we want, we'll go ahead and just hit the down arrow button, all right, on the printer. By doing that, the printer goes ahead and grabs the paper automatically. It'll do the same thing with the roll. Find the left edge, find the right edge, measure it, and then basically put it into position to where it's ready to print. So that's really all there is to loading a sheet. At this point, we're pretty much done setting up the printer and doing the print head alignment and getting it ready to print. What we would do at this point is we'll take our black leather binder, which has our user manual, but it also has our software CD. So we can take the software CD, load it on our Macintosh or Windows platform computers, and connect the printer. As we mentioned earlier, you can connect it through USB or through Ethernet. And you don't want to connect it to both. Pick one and stick with it. And at that point, once you've loaded all the software, you're ready to print. Okay, so that's our unpacking, installation, and setup video for the Epson 9890, 9900. Again, you could use the same video for the 7890, 7900 printers as well. Thanks for joining us today. Again, this is Scott with DTG. You can reach us at 800-681-0024. or visit us online at www.dtgweb.com. Thanks a lot.